Welcome back into Pigskin Perspectives for a second year here on the Nick Bird Sports Network. Welcome in once again. Football has very much just crept up on us out of nowhere. Not really, though. I mean, it has been a very long time since we've had football in our lives, and now we're back. It is week 0 for college football. You can already just taste it. You can taste the football. I mean, it's so close. It's so close. We'll start off. We'll do more of an in-depth college football preview coming up at the beginning of next week. I felt like it shouldn't be combined with week 0, since week 0 doesn't really feel like the start of college football season, even though it, obviously is. I just felt like give you a quick preview of the 4 games that we have coming up this Saturday, and then we'll do a much more in-depth preview going into our full slate of week 1 action next week. So, we might as well get it kicked off here. We have, it's not the best week 0 slate I've ever seen. We only have 4 games, so there's going to be no overlapping of games, which is positive. You get to watch 4 football games in 4 different time slots. It should be an enthralling day of football, but I do have to warn you, the matchups and the teams playing, not that great. We start off with what is most likely going to be the best game of the day. I would be very surprised if it's not. It is Florida State, the number 10th ranked team in the nation, going up against Georgia Tech, live from Dublin, Ireland. This is a noon kickoff, I believe it is. This is the 3rd straight year, I believe, that we are doing a college football kickoff in Ireland. Obviously, it seems like it was a thing back in the early 2010s. I know Notre Dame went there, I think, in 2011 or 2012, one of those years. The year later, I believe Penn State and UCF played there. A year after that, I believe somebody else played there, and then it kind of died off. It was supposed to come back in 2020. COVID obviously hit. Then it comes back 2022 was Nebraska Northwestern. That kicked off the college football season. And then it was Notre Dame Navy last year. This year it is Florida State and Georgia Tech. I do believe that we have some matchups coming up in upcoming years. So this is going to be a lasting thing. I believe next year, it's either next year or the year after, it is going to be Iowa State, Kansas State kicking off the college football season. That will be 2025 when Iowa State and Kansas State kick off the college football season. Then it's a year off before it is Pitt and Wisconsin, 2 fan bases that just love the alcohol. That will be taking on in Dublin, Ireland. So Dublin better get prepared and stack up on, beer before those 2 sides get there. But let's get back into this game. This is an interesting matchup. Florida State obviously coming off their undefeated going into bowl season last year before, getting completely obliterated by Georgia in the Orange Bowl. When they had a very reasonable gripe not making the playoffs, even though they were undefeated. Obviously, you lose Jordan Travis. You lose a lot of good players, Jordan Travis, Keon Coleman, just to name a few. But it seems like Mike Norvell still got a very good team. Made some splashes in the portal, one of them being DJ Uyunglele. The former Clemson quarterback and former Oregon State quarterback has now landed at his 3rd school, which is Florida State. He will be the starter come Saturday. That is a significant downgrade, I would say, compared to Jordan Travis. DJ doesn't do much for me. I know he's good. He's only got a certain limit, though, before he's just past that. So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts into this Mike Norvell-led Florida State team. But then you got on the other side Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech is a team on the rise. Now, I don't think that they're going to do much this season. I'm not saying they're going to compete for the ACC, but I still think they will be decent enough to probably make a bowl game. I think they could give Florida State a challenge here. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to win this game, but I think they give them a challenge. I believe the stat, they are 8-1 against the spread in the last 9 games against Florida State. The spread is 11.5. Florida State is the favorite. I do like Georgia Tech in this one. It really all depends on how DJ looks under center in his first game in the garnet and gold. That's really what it's going to come down to. If he comes out there and plays like the prospect that he was, we all led to believe that he was, Georgia Tech will not be in this game at all. If he comes out like the quarterback we kind of saw at Clemson, we saw at times at Oregon State, this game's going to be closer than people think. And I think there's a chance that Georgia Tech cover the spread here. I don't think they're winning. I think Florida State wins, get a good start to their season, but I think it's going to be Georgia Tech covering here. And we'll notice with the spreads, or with the over-unders, I should say, this weekend it's either 55.5 or 54.5. Those are the two over-unders that we have for all the games this weekend. It's going to be interesting with the new changes to the clock and how that's going to affect scoring, which is why most of these games I think I'm going to opt under, just because, this is trial by fire, basically. This is your first game under new clock rules. It's a running clock, I believe, unless obviously you go out of bounds. Similar to NFL rules. You got a 2-minute warning now. That should be interesting. Of course, we had another TV timeout in there. But, you're going to have to make some adjustments coming into the season, which is why I kind of think we may get a little bit lower scoring games to start this off. But I still think Florida State win this game. I think they're going to be good this year. I don't think they win the ACC, but I think they'll be good. Georgia Tech, I won't say they're a sleeper team in the ACC in the case that nobody really talks about Georgia Tech. They just kind of assume Georgia Tech's going to be awful. I'm not saying they're a dark horse or a sleeper, any of those terminologies to win the conference. I'm just saying they're going to shock some people this year, I think. But Florida State win this game. I don't think they cover. I don't think they go over. But should still be a great game to kick off college football for the 2024 season. We move on to the second game of the day. I believe this one is on FS1, and it is the Montana State Bobcats from the Big Sky in the FCS. They are the number 4 ranked team in the FCS right now, going up against the New Mexico Lobos under first-year head coach Bronco Mendenhall. Took a few years off from coaching. Prior to that break, he was at Virginia, and prior to that, he was at BYU. So he's getting back into coaching. It's a completely different landscape from when he left just a few years ago. Obviously, NIL, all that stuff, it's going to wreak havoc. New Mexico is not good this year. They are not going to be good. I don't think they have a chance of being good this year. This is very much a rebuilding year for Bronco Mendenhall. This is basically a year zero type season for him, because the time doesn't really start on how good or bad you're doing until I would probably say next year. This year, it's just figuring everything out. And I think that's part of the reason why Montana State, again, an FCS school, is almost a 2-touchdown favorite in this game. Montana State is minus 13.5. The over-under is 54.5. The last time a FCS team was favored by this much, it was Old Dominion in 2013. They were a 14.5 point favorite, I want to say it was, against Idaho, who was then still at the FBS level. And Old Dominion, I believe, won that game by 21. So just take, what you will. I think Montana State wins this game. I don't have faith in this New Mexico team being good this year. I think they're going to be quite awful. They may be one of the bottom teams in the FBS this year. It's just going to be that bad. And the number scares me, though, with Montana State. Because it just seems like a lot for an FCS team. But like the stat I just put out, I'm just going to say they're going to cover for the fun of it. For the fun of it, I'm going to say Montana State covers this game. Again, I'm going to go under here just because I don't know how this clock issue is going to work out this year. It's going to be interesting to see. So we just talked about what I think is going to be one of the worst teams in the FBS this year. It's time to talk about another one that I think is going to be one of the worst teams in the FBS this year, and that is Nevada, however you want to pronunciate it. They are at home this week 0 against ACC member SMU. Yes, ACC member. That stands for Atlantic Coast Conference member, Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. What is Atlantic Coast about Dallas, Texas? I have no idea. But conference names don't matter anymore. The Big 12 has 16 teams. The Big 10 has 18. Southeastern Conference, I guess, technically is still in the Southeast. The Atlantic Coast Conference is actually the All-Coast Conference. And the Pac-12 only has 2 teams, so names don't really matter. This Nevada, however you want to pronunciate it, team is going to be quite awful this year. It is going to be a battle at the bottom of the Mountain West between Nevada and New Mexico this year. These 2 teams are going to be quite putrid, and I don't want to watch either of them, but they're 2 of the 4 games we have this weekend. So, kind of got to watch them. SMU, it's going to be interesting to see how they, lean into the ACC. They obviously are not getting any money from the ACC for like 10 years. So they are basically there just for the name, saying SMU is a Power 4 institution and we play in the ACC. We're not getting any of the benefits from it, but hey, oil money is going to get us there. Again, is that going to work? Probably not, but hey, crazier things have happened. SMU is a 26.5 point favorite in this game. Just given how bad Nevada is going to be, I think they cover that. You get a 55.5 over under here. Again, I'm going to go under because I just don't see how this happens, honestly. I just don't. And we move on to the final game of this week 0, and it is the game that everybody loves this game, because it is the return of what college football is and what always will be. An 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Hawai'i kickoff. Boy, am I excited for Hawai'i football to be back. Now, I think this is a crucial year for Timmy Chang. 2 lackluster years to start off his tenure. He has to go to a bowl game this year. I say this as a... I'm not a booster, obviously. I'm not a donor. I'm just a fanatic about Hawai'i football at 11:59 p.m. at night. Timmy Chang's got to figure it out this year. A bowl game, I think, is the minimum. You have Braden Shager coming back. He entered the portal. Nobody really wanted him, so he came back to Hawai'i. You're starting to get a pipeline of talent back into Hawai'i from the islands. Obviously, a lot of good talent leaving the islands in previous years. We're not at the levels of, like the best talent staying in Hawai'i. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. But if you're keeping, decent players, I think that bodes better for this team. I know they hit a few portal hits there, but I think this team starts and ends with the combination of Braden Shager, the quarterback, and Pafoki Ashlock, the wide receiver. If you did not see the clip, Floki has dyed his hair blonde with the islands imprinted in his hair in black. A throwback, of course, to the late, great Colt Brennan, a man that just was devout to the islands. And Ashlock even said that it was tribute to Colt, this season, like I said, begins and ends with those two. I am excited to watch Hawaii football this year. I think like each year it feels like at the second half of the season they figure it out, but it's obviously too late by that point. I think the schedule for them breaks this year in a way that can get them to that bowl game. Now, the thing with Hawaii too is I think they have should be guaranteed wins on there. But the problem with that is that 2 of those games are against FCS opponents. So that means only one of them is going to count towards bowl eligibility. Obviously, you get a tricky slope there. If not enough teams are bowl eligible, then obviously you end up picking up somebody like a Hawaii who sit at like 6-7, but aren't technically eligible yet because of all these rules that the NCAA has against bowl eligibility. But still, I think this year, the way the schedule breaks, I think Delaware State, which is this game, it should be a win. We'll get to the preview in a second. I kind of just want to... I'm on a Hawaii rant right now, so might as well keep going. Delaware State should be a win. Sam Houston, I know they're playing in Texas, but that should be a win. Northern Iowa should be a win. Nevada, as I said, probably going to be one of the worst teams in the FBS this year. Should be a win. And at the end of the season, you can close out with New Mexico. Should be a win. Which leaves UCLA, San Diego State, Boise State, Washington State, Fresno State, UNLV, and Utah State as you got to win 2 of those games to confirm your bowl eligibility. And we'll get into it come next week when we're previewing week 1. I think the door is somewhat open for UCLA. I think the door is open for, Boise State and UNLV because those are both on the islands and things get crazy there. It gets a little tricky past that, but I think the minimum has to be a bowl this year for Timmy Chang. And of course, by a bowl, I mean the Hawaii Bowl because of the tie-in. If Hawaii gets bowl eligible, they stay on the island. Delaware State, we'll get into them for a second. They've had a wild week. It was on Tuesday. Their flight, they missed their flight to Hawaii after they had to take a 3-hour bus ride to JFK from Dover, Delaware. When the bus broke down, so they did not make it, which meant the team ended up getting split up onto different flights. I think the team finally regrouped together in Hawaii yesterday, I believe. So they have not really had time to adjust. Obviously, if you're going out to the island from the East Coast, you want as much time as possible to adjust to that 5-hour time change. They didn't get a lot of time for that. So I think they're going to be, they were already in trouble coming into this game. I think they're in bigger trouble now. The line's at 39.5 though. It seems like so much for a Hawaii team. They haven't shown much in 2 years under Timmy Chang. They've had their glimpses and their moments. I don't see them covering a 39. They're going to need to win by 40 to cover this. And with the over-under at 54.5, I just don't see it happening. I see this game going under, and I see Delaware State covering this game. This number is just too large. As much as I love Hawaii, and I think they win this game, that number is way, way, way too large. So that's just a quick preview of what we have coming up in this week 0. Like I said, we'll do a more in-depth preview of this college football season coming up early next week. And then, of course, we'll do a week 1 preview. So thank you so much for tuning into this season debut episode of Pigskin Perspectives. If you just stumbled across this video, click like, click subscribe to the Nick Bird Sports Network. Tell anybody you know about it. If you enjoy, soccer content, we also have that on this channel, so make sure you tune into that. But we will be back early next week for a full 2024 college football preview here on Pigskin perspective.